And here we have finally arrived to the most important question of all. To token or not to token? Hello and welcome. I'm Blake. I'm an angel investor, ex-Uber, and ever since I joined Outlier Ventures, I run programs, the Filecoin Basecamp program with Protocol Labs, and currently I'm running the Dream Assembly program in partnership with Farfetch, focused at Web3 luxury fashion. I've accelerated over 20 teams throughout my time at OV, and I'm an active investor in many Web3 companies. A token is a digital unit of value that can be exchanged in an economic setting between the participants of the network. There are many different types of tokens. On a high level, a token can be fungible, like Bitcoin. Any Bitcoin is exchangeable for any other Bitcoin, much like dollars. And non-fungible tokens, any NFT, which essentially becomes a unique digital object. For fungible tokens, there are many subcategories, such as governance tokens that can incentivize different behaviors and help make decisions in a community or a DAO type of structure. There are payment tokens that you can use as transaction fees within the context of a given project, as well as utility tokens. Utility tokens and their use would differ from each project to project based on how they are incorporated in the business model and what function do they play in token economy. Ever since tokens started becoming more prevalent in the ICO era of 2017, we have cycled through multiple narratives and use cases. From using tokens as a means of fundraising to empowering community-led decisions, all the way to a new way of launching products. Along the way, categories such as payment tokens, utility tokens, and governance tokens, amongst others, have emerged. There are, of course, different ways that products and tokens can relate to one another. First, there are cases where a token is needed to make the product work. Then, there are scenarios when the product can benefit from a token but doesn't strictly need a token to function. Finally, in most situations, the token is not needed for a given product. This doesn't, of course, mean that projects shouldn't consider a token regardless. We will now go through each of these cases and illustrate with examples of projects. In reality, there are only a handful of use cases and product categories that need a token, meaning that they could not provide their core functionality without it. Most notably, they include Layer 1 blockchains. In order to secure the blockchain, a token is needed to incentivize validators or miners. Usually, the token is also required as a means of payment for transaction fees of using the blockchain. Arguably, this was the original use case for native tokens with blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and is still the best practice for chains like Unique Network. Another category of use cases are digital resource networks that need to balance supply and demand and want to provide these resources in a decentralized manner for storage to computing and even data connectivity. Examples include Filecoin for storage, or more recently Uplink, a mesh network for decentralized connectivity. For those projects, having a token is essential to incentivizing a network of developers. Potentially, the largest category of products that can significantly benefit from tokens are many products that rely on a network effect to provide their service. These projects need to overcome a cold start problem in order to be useful. This category includes marketplaces such as Honda for recruiting and Lemonade for events. Another use case where both decentralized content creation and the cold start problem are relevant are data unions, for example, Pool Data or Ozone. There are other ways that tokens can improve products, and innovation in this area will continue. It is important to consider that in some cases, introducing a token can harm the prospect of success. There are recurring pitfalls that Web3 founders should be aware of and avoid wherever possible. First of all, using a native token as the only admissible means of payment generally only makes sense in the case of Layer 1 blockchains or decentralized resource networks. In most other cases, a payment token causes significant friction, especially if the target audience is more general or even includes enterprise customers. Another pitfall is using the token exclusively as a reward mechanism, without providing reasons for users to hold or stake the token. The introduction of financial incentives may crowd out the intrinsic motivation of users, and if the only thing they can do with the token is sell it for cash, the token will have a hard time sustaining its value. Finally, if the project has raised capital on an equity basis before, You need to be very careful not to introduce conflicts and adverse incentives between token holders and equity holders. This often occurs in cases where a part of a product revenue goes to an incorporated company and another part goes to token holders. And here we have finally arrived to the most important question of all. If your product does not fall into the categories I've described so far, the answer is likely a clear no. Nevertheless, there may still be good reasons to launch a token. If your project wants to decentralize control and distribute ownership widely, a governance token may still make sense. As long as the pitfalls described previously can be avoided and the relevant jurisdiction allows it, a governance token can incentivize team members and raise funds for the project. This becomes more relevant if your project is hoping to raise a crowd sale from many small contributors. Projects in that situation should carefully consider the decision. Don't feel pressured to launch a token just because you are building a Web3 related product. This is your project. Don't be afraid to get creative. Tokens are one of the things that make Web3 unique. They allow for ownership, incentives, and creativity that can truly make your project stand out. There are many other ways in which your project can incorporate Web3 elements. When structuring your token architecture and the value flow, you need to pay close attention to the type of behaviors you incentivize or disincentivize with network participants. You should always think of those encouraged or disencouraged actions you want the network participants to take in context of the buying pressure or sell pressure it can create for the token and therefore influence its value in the market. Incorporating tokens in a B2B setting can often be tricky, especially if your clients are large enterprise companies. You have to pay attention to the behaviors you expect from them. Do you think a huge company will buy a pool of tokens from you? Not necessarily. It needs to have a certain utility in the context of your project. In B2B setup, that's often tricky. However, if a B2B project wants to use tokens for the retention of the community and building engagement with their fan base, there is still room for it in the business model. Thanks for watching. If you would like to check out more of our courses and content, go to outlierventures.io/atlas.